All right, so I can go ahead and get started then, Eric. You good?
Yes, please.
All right, great, great. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and get started. My name is Sean Washington. I'm the team lead account executive here at United Wholesale Mortgage for the All Nexa team. Okay, and what that means is there's an 11-person team specifically designated to support Nexa, and we're going to have a little bit more discussion about that to go through the presentation. But most importantly, I am here to discuss with you the advantages of working with the Nexa loan officer and the difference between an independent mortgage broker and its advantages as well. Okay? All right, so moving forward, you see me here on the left once again, team lead Sean Washington, and you have Eric and Diane. I think that you are fairly acquainted. So now how long you been over at Nexa, Eric?
Oh, I'm new. We're both new. So about
Okay.
a month and a half. Yeah,
Okay.
we moved our licenses over from another company, but we've been with Nexa now about a month and a half.
Good, good. So we're ready to get you off to a good start. So one of the very important questions that I believe is not asked enough, especially by realtors, is about the support. Okay, and the reason I say that it's not asked about enough is only because you get loan officers that come to you a lot and they'll say, "Hey, you know what, Sarah? There's so much that I could do for you, right? I can give you the best level of service. What does good service mean to you, loan officer? Right? What about I could give you the best communication that you've ever had in your entire life? Okay, what does that mean? I have turn times that are faster than anything you've ever seen. It all sounds great, of course. But the main question that needs to be asked is what kind of support do you have behind you in order to back up these claims and all these amazing things that you're saying that you're going to be able to do, right? So we got to send a foundation here before I start talking about all of these great things. And this foundation starts with the 11-person team designated to work with Nexa, and especially Eric Martineau and Diane Martineau, okay? There's 11 people here, handpicked. My team, ladies and gentlemen that are on my team, have the ability to do whatever you need to be able to become successful, right? Very devoted. Call them at 8 p.m. at night, Mountain Standard Time. I can guarantee you Colin Jones is going to answer the phone, okay? Call me at 5:30 in the morning. I can guarantee you I'm going to answer the phone. But we're here to support you to ensure that every single transaction that you do is a success story.
I was going to say that working with Sean, who's right next to you there, or with Pierre, Sean has been great. You know, he goes out of his way to help us, and you're right. He's been willing to take our calls late in the evening, early in the morning,
All day.
whenever. So it's wonderful to
100%.
know that all we have to do, and by the way, for all of you that are the realtors out there that we invited, thank you. We have what Sean. He says we've got all those people there to help us, but he didn't explain how it actually works. We go to our company website and we click on video support, and we go into an area called loan officer support. When we click on it, we can either go and get help from a loan officer that knows their stuff within our own organization, or we can ask to go to the UWM breakout room, and there's always somebody there to help us. If not all of the, I just always ask for Pierre, but if he hasn't been there because he's out to lunch or whatever, they put me into another room with one of his partners, and they've helped us. So we always have the ability to ask questions and get the support we need with UWM, and that's live video help. So again, the other day I asked Pierre how to do something, and he said, well, let me show you. So I gave him access to my computer. He got on, he moved things around for me, and I got it taken care of in just a couple seconds.
Okay? So that being the foundation to everything that we're going to be talking about here, having an excessive amount of support, that's what breeds speed and the service that we're gonna communicate about. So what you see here is some steps that involve the loan process from start to finish, which is very typical of what happens regardless of where you send the loan. Now, the significant difference in working with Eric Martineau, Diane, Nexa, and an independent mortgage broker overall is the fact that you're just going to be able to close loans so much faster. Now, you see that 12 and a half day CTC average right there? That is what Nexa has, is a 12 and a half day clear to close, from submission to clear to close. So, for example, in the month of October, they closed 1,254 loans with United Wholesale Mortgage alone. Okay, and I'm going to tell you exactly how they did that. So you're going to see these steps here: import, e-sign, setup, and underwriting. You have to import the loan to a lender. What other lenders call is a compliance portion, right? When are you going to send the compliance disclosure? Or when is the compliance department going to send those disclosures out? Which typically The lender is the one that's in control of getting those documents out, right? Then you have the setup, and then you have underwriting, which each one of these steps anywhere else takes multiple days. Import process, compliance process, setup process, underwriting, multiple days for each. What's great about working with Eric, Diane, Nexa, and independent mortgage brokers is the fact that we can shave off that entire first portion and do it all in the same day. So it's 5:07 p.m. Let's say that it was 1:30 p.m. Your Eastern Standard Time, and you sent a Sarah, you sent a purchase agreement over to Eric. Eric would be able to send a link to the borrower to get the application started, in which the borrower would click on that link, fill out the application. Once the application is filled out, then Eric is going to be able to import that loan within minutes, pretty much instantly. Just click on a button and import it into our system. And then he will go in and put in the fees inside of that file. And then he has the control over sending the full e-sign himself. That e-sign goes out directly to the borrower. Borrower finishes that e-sign. It automatically splits into the UWM portal. Upon him giving us the supporting documentation, it will go into same-day setup and same-day underwriting. Now, right now, Sarah, what we have is, I see on a regular basis, same-day to one-day underwrites right now on initial underwriting. Worst case scenario, what I'm seeing is 1 to 2 days on initial. Refis, purchases, doesn't matter if it's conventional, doesn't matter if it's VA. So this is how it's happening. This is how the success is rolling over and over again for Eric and Diane when they come over here and start submitting loans. You start to work together, okay? So I want you to consider one more time. You shave off the top portion of that process. Just think about how much easier it is to close loans and how much faster you're going to be able to do it. So now, let's talk about some tools and exclusives along the way that also expedite this loan process. So we have something called One-Click AUS. What AUS is, it stands for Automated Underwriting System. The automated underwriting system has to be ran at 100% of companies, 100% of lenders, banks have to run AUS. All right. And so you have DU and LP, which is Freddie Mac and Fannie Mae. You run one or the other. OK, one may have more leniency on some particular guidelines. The other one might have some leniency as well. Now, the difference with working with Eric, Diane, and Nexa and independent mortgage brokers that work with UWM is the fact that they can run it DU and LP at the exact same time, which allows you to exhaust all opportunities to have the most efficient and effective AUS method that's possible, right? And in saying that, yeah, let's say LP, that's 2 months reserves. That's 2 months bank statements, right? But DU is only 1 month. You would not have known that unless you run both, whereas other lenders, you would have to just go with the one that you chose initially. There we go. Okay, so now another portion that I would like to speak about is this. It's called Easy Findings. So when you run the One-Click AUS, when you run DU and LP, you are all used to sometimes having to call the loan officer and say, hey, where's the commitment? Or where is the loan approval at, right? And better yet, we're all hoping for a very clean approval. That's the best thing that you can count on is, please, Lord, let me get a clean approval so I can close this thing within 30 days and close it on time. Well, we've actually changed that perspective, right? We want to submit loans so they go into underwriting and come out with a clear to close. And I'm going to tell you how that happens. So I talked to you about the One-Click AUS, right? Running DU and LP at the same time. Once you do that, you can generate something called Easy Findings. What Easy Findings is in essence the same initial approval that the underwriter is going to end up giving you anyways. So you can actually anticipate what the underwriter's needs are going to be before you even submit the loan. Now, I want you to consider, so let's say Joel Moreno sends the purchase agreement over to Eric. Eric does the online application. He imports the loan into our system. He runs One-Click AUS, generates the Easy Findings, sends the Easy Findings to the borrower, which, as you can see, this is very easy to interpret. A borrower can read this, and you will not have to put it in layman's terms. It's already in layman's terms for them. He sends this to the borrower, saying, hey, Mr. Borrower, you get me these things, we're going to be able to put our best foot forward. Borrower gets Eric all of these things on this page, which is not a lot. He submits everything that's on here. Let's say that he ends up having a same-day CTC, right? If he ends up having a same-day CTC, that's strictly because of his ability to get everything up front in anticipation of what the underwriter's needs are. So that's another way that we're just able to continue to expedite the process on the terms of what's needed to be successful on the realtor side and on the broker side, and to please all borrowers and buyers that you're going to be working with in the future. One cool stat that I want to tell you about is like I told you before, working with UWM, Nexa closed 1,254 loans in October. Out of that 1,254 loans, 47% of those loans did not need appraisals, right? So if you were to send Eric 50 loans, 47% of them most likely wouldn't even need an appraisal, even if they're purchases. So that's another way that we're just continuing to find the ability to expedite the loan process, right? So continuing on with more tools that we have in here. So we have something called Dockless. Dockless is where you have the ability, one, we spoke about sending the e-sign, and you're in control of when you're sending out the compliance disclosures and the e-sign disclosures to the borrower, which is pretty much instant. But then we have something called the automated income verification. So let's say, and I honestly believe that a lot of us are ran into this situation to where the borrower can't find their pay stubs, they can't find their income documentation, you got to wait for the tax returns from the CPA, something like that, right? Well, working with Eric, Diane, Nexa, and any other independent mortgage broker that works with UWM, they can run the Dockless income here in the automated income verification and instantly go retrieve that income, regardless of if it's W-2, even if it's capital gains income, if it's Schedule C income, if it's Social Security or passive income, right? Instantly. So it's going to hit about 7 out of 10 times. Okay, so you have a 7 out of 10 chance to be able to instantly retrieve that income without even having to go to the borrower to retrieve documentation. Then you have the automated asset verification, which means if Eric and Diane choose to use the Dockless process, they also could send a link, which the borrower clicks on that link and chooses the financial institution that they want to use to verify assets. They log in with their online banking credentials, and then once they do that, it will generate a 60-day transaction history that will go directly to Eric and Diane, and it will be up to them to release it to United Wholesale Mortgage, right? But at the end of the day, they didn't have to go get any documentation whatsoever. So one thing for sure that can happen with Eric and Diane is the fact that they have the ability to import and submit a loan to underwriting without having to ask the borrower for not one piece of paper. Not one piece of paper. So that's another way for you to be able to expedite the loan process that I believe any realtor will see as an advantage to be able to go out there and expand their market share. So let's see some real life success stories here. So you have people that get 3-day CTCs, 5-day, 2-day, 2-day. I remember I spoke to you about a 0-day CTC. So Sarah sends over to Eric the purchase agreement. He does the application. He submits the loan using easy findings to underwriting at 1 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. He gets a clear to close at 3 because the underwriting turn times are so fast. He used the easy findings and anticipated the needs of what the underwriter wanted, so the underwriter had nothing to ask for. Therefore, it hasn't even been a full day. Therefore, that's 0 days that it took to CTC the loan that you sent to Eric. It happens all the time, right? So I can continue. This group of people, this is the number of people that this happens to every single day working with UWM just at Nexa alone, all right? So now let's talk about some of the things people don't like to talk about, right? If anyone knows about the closing disclosure, it's not the funnest portion of the loan process, okay? But the great news is United Wholesale Mortgage has found a way to streamline that process. A majority of lenders out there, not all, but a majority of lenders out there require you to be at final approval in order to send out the closing disclosure. The closing disclosure is a compliance disclosure in which it has to be sent to the borrower to show the estimated closing costs on the file, right? Once the borrower acknowledges those closing costs on the closing disclosure, then you have to wait 3 days before the loan can be scheduled to close. So that could be a time sucker, especially when it comes to the end of the process, right? Especially if you think that you're finally done and now all of a sudden you have to wait for this 3-day cool-off period. That's not fun. What's cool about what Eric and Diane can do is the fact that they have alternative documentation that we will accept here at UWM, in which they don't have to wait until final approval. they can get the CD out upon their initial approval. So let's say, I keep picking on you a little bit, Sarah, here, but I'm keep using your name because you're up at the top. So Sarah sends over the purchase agreement over to Eric, right? And let's say, it took a little bit longer for the underwrite. It took 2 days, right? It took 2 whole days for the initial underwrite. But Eric got us the preliminary documentation or the alternative documentation that we will allow to get the CD out early. The CD can go out upon the initial approval. So that means within 2 days of Sarah sending Eric the purchase agreement, the initial CD is already out. So then when you get to clear to close, you have nothing that you have to wait for in regards to cool-off periods. Now I'll take it a step further. So I know all of us on this phone call have had to deal with the fact that you would have to reach out to a lender and say, do you have any openings for us to be able to schedule closing? Do you have any openings for us to be able to schedule the CD to go out? Do you have any requirements for funding authorization? All those are pain points when it comes to closing a loan. Awesome part about working with Eric and Diane is the fact that they have control over their ability of when the closing package goes out. So Sarah, if you got a clear to close today, it's 5:18 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Sarah calls Eric, hey, borrowers need to leave town on an emergency. Is there any way that we can close tomorrow? Eric's like, why can't we close tonight? Sarah's going to say, I didn't realize you could do that. Give me 30 minutes, Sarah, and I can get the closing package over to you. All he has to do is go inside of the website and literally verify the fees are correct and generate that final closing package within minutes. Now, if you were to be able to generate that closing package and schedule the closing before 3:45 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, the wire automatically goes out as well. So if Sarah called Eric at 2 p.m. in the afternoon and said, we need to get this done within the next hour, I don't have time to explain. Eric says, say no more. He generates that final closing package, has the package out within an hour. He scheduled the closing before 3:45 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, which means the wire will be there. It's going to be there. Now, a good part about what we do over here at UWM is the fact we do everything prior to docs, which means there are no funding conditions. So when we get a clear to close, that means that we are okay with you going and funding, recording, get the job done, sign the checks, right? A lot of us have been at closings to where you sit there and you wait. They need a verification of a pay stub and the loan's already been clear to close as a funding condition. Why'd you even CTC the loan? You know what I'm saying? And you got to wait for a funding authorization number to come through. That's not fun. The first time I closed my loan, I'm not going to name who I closed it with. It was before I was working here. When I closed my first house, all right, I remember that I literally sat there for like 80 minutes. It was like an hour and a half just for me to fund. And I'm like, I thought we were done. And I just sat there. You're not going to have to go through something like that working with Eric and Diane, Nexus Mortgage, and independent mortgage brokers because of the amount of control that they have over the loan process. All right. And that's important when it comes to your buyers and it comes to being able to grow your market share and consistency. All right. So let's talk about going digital. Millennials. That's what they like to do. Okay, I'm still trying to get as savvy as I possibly can with all the digital gadgets that they have out here coming out today. And you know what? It's not going to end. It's only going to become more and more prominent. So it's our jobs, okay, as people in the finance industry, to be able to adapt and to be able to learn these things. And we have something for you as realtors as well. So there's something called Blink Plus. What Blink Plus is that application tool that I was telling you about, right? So let's say, Eric, Diane, Joel, Sarah, you guys have a business relationship. And you say, Eric, you know what? I really like how you performed on the last loan. So let's find a way to start co-branding and partnering. That's fine. What Eric can do is he can go create a custom application link with Sarah's picture on it, with her logo on it for her realtor office. It's going to have Eric's picture on it and his team's logo on it. And he can customize it to say, hey, click here to apply with Sarah at RE/MAX, whatever you want to cater it to. It has nothing to do with UWM. This is all free technology for Eric and Diane to use to go out there and help you dominate, right? Another great thing is communication is very important. So a lot of times you may have to reach out to a loan officer and say, hey, where are we on this? I haven't heard from you in a very long time. And the reason that you don't is because typically a loan officer's like, dude, this loan isn't even underwriting yet, and it's probably been like 2.5 weeks, getting uncomfortable, so I'll probably duck your phone call. Well, that's not going to happen with working with Eric and Diane, because in the same customized link portal that they created for Sarah and Joel with your logos and pictures and everything, it also can be attached to all parties involved in the transaction. You want the buyer's agent, seller agent, HOI agent, title, attorneys. And then you will be updated in real time of whatever's happening on the loan internally at UWM. So the moment the loan hits underwriting, Sarah automatically gets an alert. The moment that it comes out of underwriting, she gets an alert. Appraisal gets cleared. CD goes out, clear to close. So full transparency on the loan process from start to finish, all with the Realtor Portal link that he can create and customize, and you can hold on to, Sarah. So potential buyers walk into her office and they're like, you know what? I think I want to do this. Sarah goes, I got just a guy. Click on this link on my iPad right here. Boom. They click on the link, goes directly to Eric and Diane's application right there. Within minutes, without them even having to leave, they can fill out the application right there on the spot. So we make the process extremely easy and streamline it for you to where there would be people will be doing themselves a disservice by not telling their relatives about you when they're looking for a house. You understand what I'm saying? So these are some great tools for you guys to be able to take advantage of, all free access to you and Eric and Diane and independent mortgage brokers that work with UWM. So coming towards the end of the conversation, I would like to talk about products, okay? So Eric, Diane, we're not the only people that they use, all right? Because we don't do everything. But what's great about using Eric and Diane is the fact that they have hundreds of lenders that they're signed up with, to where if we can't do it, they have somebody that can do it. So never doubt your ability to be able to get a loan done when you have Eric and Diane at your disposal, because they have a million different places they can send it to be able to get it closed. But when you're dealing with FHA, VA, USDA, we're your guy. Okay, we're your guy. And we also have specialty products as well. So I'm going to talk to you about that. So Conquest is the #1 program in the industry right now. The #1 program in the industry. And the reason why, it is conventional VA and FHA loans that are highly incentivized to the point to where you could look at 30-year mortgages in the 1 percentile and 2 percentile range, right? So how does that help a realtor? That's really what we're asking here. So let's say Sarah, she's like, look, I'm going to be going with this bank. Sorry, Eric, but it looks like that's who they want to go with. That's fine. You know what's going to end up happening? What's the 3.25 and their debt to income ratio look like? They're maxed out at $300,000 at a 45% debt to income ratio, paying a monthly payment of $884. Now, if you went with Eric and he's got a 2.5%, now the payment is going to be $790, which means, hold on, Mr. Borrower, actually going with Eric, before you go with this big bank, I just want to tell you one last thing. If you were to go with Eric, and if you were to go with me here, you actually can get a home that's a $325,000 purchase price because of how much lower the rate is, probably at the same cost or even better. So I'm going to give you that option. You choose which one you want to go with, the 3.25 at 300 or the 2.5% at 325. They're going to go with the 2.5% at 325, right? And what does that also do? We're all in this game to make money. So Sarah, you're going to make more money by selling 325 right at 300. Borrower, you exceed the borrower's expectations as well, which they will never forget. They came in thinking that you could only do 300. Now they can go and shop for another house for 325. You save their day, right? And they'll never forget that. And they're forced to refer you at that point. So definitely a huge advantage thinking about the Conquest program. Anytime that you speak to Eric or Diane about what kind of programs they have, that's the #1 thing that they're going to talk about. Another thing I would like to discuss is it's often a misconception that low down payment options are restricted to government loans or down payment assistance, right? But that is not the case. You can actually do 3% down conventionals, and have the lowest monthly MI in the industry. So on the right side, I could assure you, if you send a loan anywhere else, guarantee they're probably using this MI provider right here on the right side, okay? $235 a month for a $300,000 mortgage. UWM, $152. So hold on, I got to show you that one more time. Let's take a look. 235. Then you go here, 152 for the same exact scenario. So you combine that with the 2.5% that we were talking about that Eric is able to allow them to get a $325,000 house now. But now he's even saving them more money because the monthly MI is cheaper. So maybe they can get $340,000. So there's so many different advantages in working with Nexa, independent mortgage brokers, Diane, Eric. That is not even fun. And it also puts you in a great situation as well. So at the end of the day, it's your move and it's your opportunity. And I kind of want to re-highlight some of the things we spoke about. So we spoke about the unlimited support with Eric and Diane with their 11-person account executive team here, okay?
And by the way,
then we
Sean,
talked
your
about
team
speed and
is great.
service, which is unmatched with the fastest clear to close turn times in the industry. And then we spoke about the exclusive tools that expedite the loan process for all parties involved, especially your buyers. Top level technology for all sides of the transaction. Most competitive pricing equals lower monthly payment, meaning more house for your buyers and bigger paychecks for you, Hannah. You're getting paid, I'm telling you. It's going to be a little bit more money for you. You come over here working with Eric. And then last but not least, you combine all of this, and you as a realtor partnering with Eric and Diane will be unstoppable, and your buyers have no choice but to refer you. And that's all I got. Call Eric and Diane. That is correct.
Thank you. Thank you guys for all the information. I do have a question that I don't think you mentioned it. Sorry, I had to mute and exit for a couple of minutes for a couple of times. So I don't know if you did and I just missed it. But what are your ratios that you go by? What's the lowest ratio, the highest ratio, or the lowest score with the FICO scores that you will work with to get a borrower approved?
Yep, so 640 is the minimum FICO, okay? 640 is the minimum FICO. And then we are per AUS, right? So if you run DU or LP and it gives you an approved eligible at 49% DTI, then, we're good to go. If it's a government loan and you get a 60% DTI approved eligible, we're good to go. So we're going to accept that as well.
Hey, Sarah, let me explain another thing that just blew my mind about these guys. He talked about that software package that's called Blink, that's theirs. Mm-hmm. That software package, although it is theirs, is not, Diane and I are not obligated to go with UWM, even though we've used their Blink service. So all those services he was talking about are still there for us. And let's say we do get somebody that's down at a 620 and they really don't have a product that's going to be the best. I can pull that file out in a generic format and suck it right back into a different lender, because we have 100 lenders that we can work with. And so if the person you're bringing to us doesn't fit UWM as the best, Diane and I can still have used that tool that keeps you informed and move that loan over to another lender. And I know that's probably not the thing, that UWM wants to hear said on one of their presentations, but the reality is that's why they've built that tool for us, is because we can use it that way and it still helps.
Yeah, the whole point is to help you go and grow the market share on the broker side. Yeah. As long as it helps you dominate that and banks aren't out here dominating that space anymore, that's all that matters to us, right? And then doing the good deed, if you send a loan here, perfectly fine, but nothing is going to be branded UWM. It's all going to be co-branded for you or whoever you'd like to co-brand it with.
Yep. I thought that was pretty cool. Thank you.
Yeah, no problem. So I got a question for you, though. I forgot to hit the record button.
I didn't.
My man.
I got it right here.
My man.
No, not a problem.
Or does anyone else have any other questions? All right. So like you said before, give me, Pierre, Eric a call. Pierre, go ahead and put your information in the chat here, your email address, your phone number. He's the account executive that works directly with Eric, and he can either of them are going to help you.
Well, let me ask you that too. If any realtor that's working with us has a question and they don't find Diane and I for whatever crazy reason, can they reach out to you too?
Yeah, just have them reach out to me.
There you go.
Yep. Yep, me or Pierre. That is correct. And then so I'll go in and I'll put my contact information in here. So my phone number is at uwm.com.
There we go.
That's my information right there. Give me a call if you ever need anything.
Well, I appreciate you putting this together for me, Sean. Us.
Yep, and actually, you know what? Join my Facebook network as well. So just find me on Facebook that way. Once we do start working together, what you'll see on my Facebook is how we leverage success stories, right? So those bragging emails, when you have fast CTCs, what I'll be able to do, what we do over here is we receive an email, right? So let's say Eric gets a loan CTC'd in 5 days. He will receive an email from UWM saying, congratulations, Eric, you got the Ryan Johnson file from submission to CTC in 5 days with a rate at 2.625. Great job, and I'll have a banner. What we'll do is we'll take that email, tag all parties involved, share it on social media. Eric will do the same. He tags Sarah, tags the borrower. So we start to spread the word in everyone's network that Sarah, Hannah, Joel just dominated it on the Ryan Johnson file, right? And closed it in 5 days. So friend me on there if you can, please. And then we can start growing this network as well.
Thank you, Sean.
All right, team. I'm going to get out of here. Call me if you need
It's
anything,
good.
okay?
Thank you. Thank you for your help and sharing that information with us.
Yeah, no problem. I'll talk to y'all soon.
Thanks, Sean.
Thanks, Sean.
You're welcome.